Hey everyone, welcome to your daily Defiance dispatch. I think I said that right, Xander. Is that right?
Crushed it. We're already rolling. Best
Hey,
episode ever.
I'm Maritza Giorgio, co-host of the Grounded podcast with Senator John Tester, and I'm filling in for Miles here today with my buddy Xander. We have a lot to get to today. We're talking a lot about these detention centers, Xander. But did you have a good weekend?
I had a great weekend. I built a playhouse for my daughter, which is by far the most masculine thing I've ever done because a drill was involved. I'm still on the kind of path from hyper metropolitan man that lived in New York City to, outdoorsman here in Oregon.
Well, let's just change. Let me be the token feminist here and be like, hey, women, it can be feminine to use a drill too.
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm speaking to my own insecurity. My mom does everything 50x better than I do. I'm speaking to my own insecurity as an aspiration.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Maybe we'll just say you got out of your city boy stuff.
Yeah. I'm moving phases.
DIY roots. Cool. Is she stoked?
It was a drill by numbers playhouse, though. Just to be clear on exactly what we're talking about. It was not the most challenging project for most, but it was great. And my daughter got in there, and she was so happy, and I felt very accomplished as a father. So it was a nice weekend.
That's amazing. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. I think that we should just start in Newark, New Jersey. Should we start, Xander? Should we get going?
As all great stories start in New Jersey. Let's go.
All great stories start in Newark. So there was some serious defiance in Newark over the weekend. While a lot of people were, spending their long weekend, not only honoring our fallen heroes, our fallen veterans, visiting cemeteries and grave sites. Some people were grilling, some people were spending time with family. But tensions were boiling over outside ICE detention facilities, one in particular, and inside it too, because since Friday, detainees inside Delaney Hall have reportedly been carrying out a hunger strike over conditions inside the facility. We're hearing complaints about food. We're hearing complaints about medical care. We're hearing complaints about treatment by ICE officers, DHS staff. And after families struggled to get answers, protesters actually spent days rallying outside in support. And we saw several elected officials join. So one woman told officials she had not been able to speak to her diabetic relative to make sure he was receiving his medication. Another concern centered around a pregnant detainee just trying to access medical care. Over the weekend, Congressman Rob Menendez spent the night outside Delaney Hall before finally getting access on Monday morning. And when he came out, he painted a really troubling picture. Menendez said the detainees showed him milk that had gone rancid. He described speaking to a pregnant woman trying to get medical care. He talked about a young woman who wanted to make it to her high school graduation. And afterward, Menendez summed up what he heard inside this way. He said, quote, "I heard just desperation from so many people in there." Now, despite those accounts, DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin is telling a very different story. We go now to Pix 11 for the latest on what he's saying.
New Jersey lawmakers and Homeland Security over Delaney Hall in Newark. Protesters clashing with law enforcement outside that facility Monday. The head of DHS now calling it a political stunt. Pix 11's Giovanni Diaz live in the studio with the very latest on this controversy. Gio, we have 300 detainees in there on a hunger and labor strike.
That's correct. And we are talking about a place that will cost about $1 billion to the government over the course of 15 years. So controversy really is part of the history of Delaney Hall. Good morning, everyone. Demonstrators have been outside Delaney Hall since the facility opened back in 2025. But it all boiled over after detainees went on a hunger strike in protest to the conditions inside the facility there. DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin reacted overnight, saying that hunger strike never happened. This morning, a war of words between the Trump administration and elected officials in New Jersey as protesters clashed with law enforcement outside Delaney Hall on Monday. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin is now taking aim at lawmakers and Governor Mikey Sherrill, calling the ongoing demonstrations a, quote, political stunt and calling out the state's sanctuary policies.
There was a guy shooting, pepper bullets.
Demonstrations outside the massive detention center in Newark have never really stopped since it opened back in 2025. But since Friday, they got more intense after protesters learned about an alleged hunger strike among detainees who are standing up against what they call poor conditions and lack of medical care. Monday, as demonstrators tried to stop ICE vehicles from leaving the facility, things escalated.
What ICE is doing here is escalating. They're taking people out of these detention centers. They're trying to bring people to Louisiana and other places where they can easily deport them. And what just happened was protesters were trying to block cars from leaving, and they pepper sprayed us.
Protesters say one of the detainees involved in the hunger strike was being retaliated against. ICE later confirming that man was transferred to a different facility. Governor Mikey Sherrill says she tried to get into Delaney Hall, but wasn't allowed.
I've been advocating to go inside the prison for days now. I was just denied that.
Yeah, and overnight, DHS released a statement saying that officers, quote, followed their training and used the minimum amount of force necessary to protect themselves, the public, and federal property. Geo Group, the company responsible for running Delaney Hall, also released a statement denying any wrongdoing and saying that detainees do have access to medical care around the clock.
Tensions remain.
So, it's really troubling seeing Xander. And we keep seeing this. We keep seeing elected officials being denied access, which is a huge deal. They are supposed to have access for oversight. It is their job. It is one of the benefits of being a member of Congress or an elected official like the governor, Mikey Sherrill, to be able to go into these facilities and make sure that they are following the rules. And it is a huge concern of mine. We have more to talk about, but do you want to say anything about that piece?
We know these claims are true. Sample size of one. We've had one person on the program whose father was incarcerated in one of these detention centers, Ariane Betancourt. We know he was hearing from him that he was being denied medical care and he was being given not enough food. When he was recently released, I think last week, he immediately needed serious medical attention because he had been so neglected on the inside. So one of the people we've chatted with confirmed that that's exactly what's going on. And, I'll say sometimes I'm grateful for Trump. It sounds crazy, but because he's so obnoxious about how he abuses our system, it brings the broader system to light. This has been the truth about incarcerated people in America for a long time, that they don't receive the nutrition they need. They are not safe. They don't receive the medical care they need. This has been a massive problem at the scale of 10 million people get cycled through our prison system every year. 2.5 million to 2 million are incarcerated in giving time. It's been the case for some time. And so in some ways, because Trump is so freaking sloppy and so audacious in the ways pursuing these things, he helps us see clearly the misery some of our systemic failures create.
Yeah, and people in the comments talking about this, what we are seeing, I think you bring up a really good point. A lot of these people, though, as we're seeing, they are being arrested as they show up for their planned interviews for their green cards.
Yeah, 100%.
They're being taken and then denied due process, like literally violations of their 5th and 14th Amendment rights. So we are going to hit on some of this more. But yeah, it's just unbelievable. And the conditions, like you said, we heard about this at Dilley, Texas, too. Worms in food and undercooked meat. In this one, we're hearing about rancid milk. Like this violates so many portions. I actually brought up the 2025 National Detention Standards document. It's 232 pages. And all of these things that we're hearing about inside of these detention centers, camps, they violate so many sections of this. So that's why we need oversight. That's why we need to allow access to these elected officials. But I do want to zoom in on something that Pix 11 was reporting, and that's that advocates say that there was one detainee who helped organize the hunger strike and that they were transferred out. ICE later confirmed that the very man had been moved to another facility. Protesters say that this was retaliation. DHS is saying no, but there's this piece of this. DHS officials are now publicly denying there's even a hunger strike happening at all, which raises this question. If there's no hunger strike, then why move one of the detainees connected to organizing it? And why are there so many people outside protesting and calling for action? And out in California, DHS is also disputing, reports of a hunger strike there at another ICE detention facility, where advocates have raised concerns over conditions there and medical care there as well. So by Monday, if we're sticking in New Jersey, outside Delaney Hall, protests there really boiled over. New Jersey Senator Andy Kim, I see people talking about this in the comments, says that he tried to help de-escalate a standoff between protesters and federal agents there after ICE vehicles tried to leave the facility. Instead, they deployed pepper spray and pepper balls were fired. Kim himself says he got hit while trying to keep tensions down. You see this footage right now of people helping flush the senator's eyes out and get the pepper spray out of his eyes. We saw the other guy in that interview, like spraying his face with water. It's just so disturbing. It's so disturbing. And as my co-host, former Senator John Tester, mentioned earlier today when we were live this morning, if they're doing this to United States senators, right, when we have a lot of cameras and attention on this, what else are they doing?
It speaks to the effectiveness of nonviolent civil disobedience, how striking those images are of people peacefully trying to save their family members. That's what they're doing. These people are being denied medical care and nutrition. They're trying to save their family members and bring attention to it and have the discipline to do it in nonviolent ways. And when those people are struck down, it really loses any leverage that the oppressive forces have, that they are in any way on the side of morality. Hunger strikes are one of the few tools in the toolkit for like oppressed people that are in kind of hidden away in society. When I was working the refugee crisis, they did a big hunger strike at the refugee camp I was at. Similar case, being served, not enough meals, spoiled food, etc. They sewed their mouths shut, actually, as a step in kind of bringing attention. It can be so challenging when you're in a position like this to try to get the world's attention, to try to change the outcome for yourself. And so, it's incredible and awe-inspiring the lengths people will go to protect one another. And it sounds like this is the case there.
Yeah, I think so. And Xander, let's talk a little bit about our GTFO ICE video.
Let's talk about it.
That was pushed out across socials for everyone to share, to join this movement. GTFO does not stand for what you might think it does, folks.
Yeah, or at least that's not what we say on our website. It stands for get the facilities out on our website. But if you're feeling emotional that day, it can stand for what you want it to stand for.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel that way.
So that video is out now, right, Xander, across the social media channels.
It is.
So you can join, you can share, and you can join us. There's a vigil tomorrow.
Yes. Well, there's a training. So at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Defiance, along with our partners, Project Saltbox and Save America Movement, are hosting a call with Worker Circle, who has been hosting these vigils. As I mentioned, Ariane Betancourt earlier, she's going to be one of the speakers there. These vigils have been fantastic at drawing attention to these detention centers and were critical in the closure of Alligator Alcatraz, the effort to close Alligator Alcatraz. And so we're hosting them. So if you're wondering how to get involved in one of these vigils, host one of these vigils, Worker Circle is going to come on, talk about how they work and how you can get involved. I was just talking to our friends at Project Saltbox. You know how many prison camps have been shut down so far from interventions pre-launch? 14. 14. And that's all sorts of interventions. That's from pressuring a seller to not sell the DHS to, in Social Circle, as you reported on, Maritza, shutting down the water. Surprise, Arizona had a big one recently. So if we mobilize in time, we are finding ourselves as in the communities that are dealing with these audacious prison camps being opened without their permission. If we organize early enough, we can stop these. So again, that is 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on Defiance. Or if you go to Project Saltbox or you go to Save America Movement, they're streaming from there as well.
Good reminder, we the people. We the
people. Turns out we the people, it's true, man. We're winning all over the place when we get organized.
Absolutely. So yeah, we are watching all this, but I do, I do think that we are reaching a fever pitch here, and I'm glad that these lawmakers continue to go out and continue, because when they show up, the cameras show up, and that's all good. We need it. We need as much attention on this as we possibly can get. But you know, they talked about responding to this and coming out to this because they were receiving letters from people detained, citing just their complete lack of due process. Complete violations of their Fifth and 14th Amendment rights. And, you know, just a reminder, folks, everybody here within our country, whether they're here legally or not, have the same rights that we do. So this is, I hope we start to see more oversight and more change here. As we saw with Delaney, DHS under Mark Wayne Mullen really hasn't changed much, Sander. In fact, their tactics to deny—
They haven't? Dang. I thought it was all Christy. No, I thought it was going to be great after this. No way. They still suck. All right.
Yeah. In fact, their tactics to deny immigrants a right to join this country, they're only escalating. So we want to start with one bombshell that dropped over the weekend. Here's the clip.
One in your family is in the process of filing for a green card? Listen up. There are new changes in effect. The U.S. Department of Citizenship and Immigration Services is announcing that petitioners will have to start the process in their home country.
This is a shock for many people listening to this.
Here's what this means. For more than 50 years, people who entered the United States legally, say with a student or temporary work visa, can apply for a green card while still in America. That way, they can continue to work and live their lives while immigration officials process their case. But now, based on this new guidance, those same people will be expected to leave the U.S. and apply through American consulates overseas. The change announced in this memo issued by the USCIS will likely impact hundreds of thousands of people each year, especially those married to American citizens or green card holders.
What they're imposing is a way to get people out without any real indication of when they're going to return.
According to the Trump administration, the move is aimed at closing loopholes in the immigration system. But critics say this could separate families, delay approvals, and force skilled workers already living and working in the United States to leave the country.
What this administration continues to do is shrink that lawful pathway and expand unlawful status to people.
Right now, it takes nearly a year and a half for green cards to be processed in immigration offices in New York City, according to the USCIS website. The attorney explains this could lead to more people losing their status even if they did everything right since entering the United States.
By his own doing, he's creating more of this business of being undocumented and giving more business to detention centers.
I don't like, oh yeah.
The proper reaction. Sorry, that was the, I didn't mean to laugh at you. That's the correct reaction. This could be the whole show. We just play a clip and then you and I sigh. That's your feedback. Yeah, go ahead, Maritza. You were gonna say something.
Just so many thoughts. Okay. I mean, you know, right off the bat, I think of my dad, who came to this country from Greece, right? And when I was a baby, they would have sent him back to Greece to reapply. And then how convenient. Like, I'm sure we can trust the government to say, yeah, go back. We'll let you back in. You got it.
Say, what do you think the processing speed is going to be once you go back? You think you're going to get right through that process?
Right. So that's my first, the first thing I think about. Not only that, I mean, like we talked about in the last segment, Senator Andy Kim was talking about people he had spoken to who were arrested literally at their interviews for their green cards. So like, come on, we can see through this. But lastly, I mean, in 2022, I wrote this down. Immigrants collectively paid $46.8 billion alone in federal taxes into our system. Okay. They also paid that year $22.6 billion into Social Security. So what happens to our workforce? What happens to all the money that they are pumping into our federal taxes, our Social Security, our Medicare, our Medicaid? Also, Mercedes brings up a great point, is the brain drain. How many amazing people do we have here who are students, who are scientists, who are teachers, who are coming here and not only learning, but giving back and teaching and being part of these amazing programs, scientific studies, research. I mean, there are just so many things that come to mind here. Like, what is this country going to be?
I don't know. I know they said skilled workers there too. There's not really there's no unskilled work. Like, as I just mentioned, I had a hard time putting together a playhouse over the weekend. I would struggle in agriculture. I would struggle in construction. There's no unskilled work. We have incredible people across this country that are all contributing, and we are torturing them. I think it's important to mention both this story and the last story. Part of this process, what they're doing here is not just torturing the people that are here. They're trying to create deterrence for future immigration. They're trying to let people know, don't come here. We're going to stick you in a prison and not feed you, even if you're doing the right things. We're going to make you go back to your country and wait for an unknown amount of time. And of course, you're going to need to restart your life. So the cruelty is the point when it comes to deterrence, especially immigration deterrence. You see this in refugee camps around the world, why they keep them in such terrible terrible conditions. It is about deterrence. And so it is a message not only to the immigrants here to self-deport, but it's also a message to immigrants around the world to not come here.
Yeah. And I mean, frankly, I live in Montana, which we've talked about, and we've already seen, we rely in the summer and winter months on our tourism, especially from our neighbors to the north in Canada. And there are so many people who don't even want to come visit here. I mean, you take away, how we're treating our immigrant populations and what we're doing to people who are detained in these ICE facilities. But then you take people who are like literally just, grandmas visiting on vacation, and suddenly they're locked up and being tortured and going through hell. And they're saying, look, like what is happening in the United States? So I think that we're already seeing people say, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go spend my money there. I don't want to go spend my time there. I don't want to deal with it. But Mercedes is pointing out another point from the Cato Institute, which showed that immigrants created $14.5 trillion in fiscal savings. And the Cato Institute says that without immigrants, U.S. public debt would have reached 205%. Is that higher, Mercedes? I'm not quite.
Is that up or is that new math they're talking about?
The word. Okay, 205% of the GDP. Sorry, Mercedes. I just started reading blindly there in our notes, but nearly double the current level. So, I mean, this is, on top of all of this, coming on top of what else is going on in the world, Xander? I don't know. I just filled up my car with gas, and I happened to be at Costco, which is the cheapest gas in town. I have never sat in a line to get gas in Missoula, Montana in my life. And the lines were going outside of the parking lot because people are trying to get the cheapest gas. We have people warning about like massive economic collapse that is imminent, like the war in Iran, the tariffs, the cuts to all of these services. I mean, we have a lot going on right now. I don't think we need to add more financial problems, not to mention getting rid of some of the best people in this country. Go ahead.
This is a strong point you made. I completely agree. Look, I don't know if there's a larger discrepancy between some of the mythology that's out there about the impact of immigrants and negative impact of immigrants and what we know to be true. It might be like cop TV shows are the biggest discrepancy between reality and, what we're actually experiencing in society. But I think the myth of like the negatively impacting immigrant, it might be the furthest from the truth. And, as you mentioned, it's especially ironic in a country like ours where we all have immigrant stories here. We're all, most of us are only one or two generations removed from our own immigrant story at this point. But yeah, isn't it crazy? Right? So when you list off all those issues, sometimes I feel when we go through this show, we go through stories like these, and then I still have anxiety on if the Democrats can win the midterms.
Well, yeah.
How can those things be true? How can there be so many awful stories about the mismanagement of this country from this administration and his political party, which fails to be a check on him? And still it is up in the air this up in the air if we can emerge victorious in year 10 of dealing with this incompetence and cruelty. It lets you know kind of the chasm. I mean, Kim, like going back to our first story, Kim, that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see you guys fight.
Yeah.
Fight. Get in there. Get pepper sprayed. Martin Luther King was arrested 27 times. He's the peace guy. We're not asking you to be a vigilante or militia member. We're saying just get in the freaking fight, man. Inspire us. Tell us how you're going to solve these problems.
With Senator Alex Padilla last year too, when he showed up at that press briefing with then Secretary Kristi Noem, and I mean, I thought John Tester's head was going to pop off when I told him that they wrestled Alex Padilla to the ground for doing his job, for showing up and doing his job. But that's what they need to be doing. I'm going to go on a
Make
tangent.
them show who they are. Sorry,
Lori makes a really great point. And close your ears if there are kids in the room. But Laura makes a good point, which is we're getting a fucking ballroom. so there's that. We are getting. Let them eat ballroom.
Kids' ears. Closing your ears doesn't do anything if the kids are in the room. You gotta close the kids' ears.
Let them eat ballroom. We are getting that. But yeah, I it's nuts. And the whole thing about mythology around our immigrants in this country. I love this. It's like, well, which is it? Are they stealing the jobs or are they a complete drain on our society? Which one is it? Because it just depends of whatever narrative you're trying to prove that moment. Okay, should we move on?
I want to make one more point. I'm sorry. I really enjoy our shows together. I want to make one more point to your point about like, do they steal the jobs or are they, filled with diseases and getting everyone sick or committing crimes or whatnot? One more point is the term illegal immigration puts the onus on a poor person who's migrating to a country to try to create a better and safer life for them and their families versus the American that lives here that has decided to employ someone under the table instead of you. Like it's also just the way, and Republicans are so good at this, so good at winning the terminology battle that like we're discussing immigration versus it's your neighbor that's not like to the extent that you feel like you're losing a job. And I think we've mostly proven people haven't personally felt that. It's like a mythology. But to the extent you are, look to your neighbor who decided he didn't want to pay taxes on salaries, didn't want to pay minimum wage, and hired someone else.
Well, it's like okay when I do it. It's just not okay when other people do it. Like it's like we saw this happen in this little town here in Montana named Freud, Montana. And this town rallied around this diesel mekanic. They're like, well, no, we don't want him to go. We want all the other people who are undocumented to go. Like, it's like a weird version of that NIMBYism, like not in my backyard kind of thing. Like, no, don't apply those rules here. That's for that.
And it's not everyone's fault. Like, again, I don't want to like put this on people for their beliefs. There's an onslaught of propaganda and tainted algorithms and so much coming at people. But mostly when you talk about people's personal experiences, they don't have the experiences they're afraid of. For the most part, they're not experiencing the things they're afraid of. When it comes to other people, our belief in other people and their motivations. And this is true on our side about most people who voted for Trump. MAGA members are not all Oath Keeper militia members, right? This is like not them. Yeah, so we've got to fight that like urge to believe the worst mythology about some of the people that are in the opposite political camp.
And go talk to people.
Touch grass, as the kids would say.
Touch grass. Okay, so I see our guest is here, so we'll speed through this next section. But if the first change makes it harder for people already here to legally become permanent residents, right? The one that we talked about like changing the rules about where you can apply for your green card. You have to be out of the country. The next one speeds up how quickly people who are already here can be removed. Listen to this. NPR is reporting that immigration courts under the Justice Department are now dramatically speeding up deportation proceedings through something that attorneys are calling mega masters. So these are immigration hearings where instead of seeing a few dozen people at a time, Xander, courts are now reportedly packing in 100 or more people at once. So for many, it's their first chance to argue why they should be allowed to stay here in the US. And immigration attorneys say people without lawyers, of course, are getting hit the hardest because if someone misses a hearing, they show up late, they never get a notice that their hearing date changed. judges can just issue removal orders and they can allow deportation proceedings to move forward. And attorneys who spoke to NPR said that they're hearing that some hearing dates originally scheduled for years from now, because this is a process, folks, and it takes years, that those hearings are now suddenly being moved up. And one lawyer told NPR that they worry the system is being designed around the assumption that people won't show up, so they can just issue those deportation orders. Now, DOJ is arguing that they're trying to clear these enormous backlogs and staff up the courts faster. The department says it's onboarded the largest class of immigration judges in history. But critics see something else. They see a system being sped up so aggressively that people lose their ability to just keep up with it. I mean, go ahead. That's my response.
I know we want to make, we want to animate the crowd about all things Trump, but this is another great example of a completely unjust justice system that we've had for some time. And now we're seeing a version of it play out with immigrants. The average time someone gets to spend with their public defense attorney is under 4 minutes.
Yeah.
When they're provided a public defense attorney. 465,000 people are held here pre-trial in America. So we have a larger incarcerated system of people that are not in trial than most incarceration systems in totality across the world, right? We have a higher rate of incarceration. So it doesn't, as coming from criminal justice reform, it doesn't surprise me to see these numbers, treating people like cattle, trying to do whatever you can to get the decision you're looking for. When people can't make pretrial bail, I think there's a 98% rate that people take plea deals just to stop being held. If you go to trial, it's only a 30% conviction rate because now the cops have to show up and everything. So they use holding you pretrial as ability to coerce plea deals so they can get closure rates, so they can have the data they want in these different systems. And this is no different. We know Stephen Miller has quotas he wants to hit. He's been doing wild shit the whole time they've been in office to hit his quotas. So it doesn't surprise me that they're processing 100 people at a time. That doesn't mean it's not horrific. It just doesn't surprise me that they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We're seeing them. I mean, we saw them going to these immigration courts, picking people up for showing up to their mandatory hearings, like showing up and doing things the right way. And that's one of those other myths I hear from people out in the in the public a lot. It's like, oh, well, if they did it the right way, well, a lot of these people are.
Totally. They're doing it the right way. And by the way, it's on us that we didn't process these people for 6, 7, 8 years. A lot of these people should have settled cases. So in the meantime, they started families, they got careers going here, etc. So ruling against them 7 years later is not the same as ruling against them 3 weeks later and saying, sorry, this, for whatever reason, you don't qualify for asylum here or you can't immigrate here. It's a completely different. So we failed to process these people in a reasonable amount of time. And now a decision that might have been understandable at some point in time is deeply cruel because you're ripping people away from communities, families, and jobs and the rest of their life that they've since started while they tried to do the right thing.
Yeah. All right. Our next section here, our section 3, our final story. We want to turn to something that might sound just like procedural at first. It has some really big implications though underneath it. So the Trump administration is now proposing giving federal agencies the option to require employees to sign non-disclosure agreements. And the goal here is to crack down on leaks to journalists. So like NDAs, things you hear about in, Hollywood. This is not narrowly written around classified information either. According to draft language first reported by the Washington Post, this proposal uses a much broader definition that includes non-public information, confidential information, even certain internal government discussions that have not been made public yet. So former employees could also need written permission before discussing information the government considers confidential after leaving federal service. The proposal includes civil and criminal penalties for violations. Now, the administration argues, hey, private companies use NDAs all the time. The government should not operate under a lower standard. But critics argue something very different here because civil liberties groups warn that this language that this broad language, this broad, risks creating a chilling effect where employees stop speaking at all. Not because it's classified information, but because they're worried about getting punished. So the proposal does carve out whistleblower protections involving fraud, abuse, inspectors general, and Congress. But concerns remain about where legitimate protection of information ends and government secrecy begins. And joining us now is someone who's uniquely qualified to help us really think through this, unpack it, walk through all the scenarios. And that is Sue Gordon, who served as the Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence and also spent decades inside the intelligence community, balancing these two very competing realities, which is protecting sensitive information and making sure institutions remain accountable. Sue, I love this. Yes, this is what I'm doing. To you smack your head. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks, and great conversation before. I just need to, I have to say two things about that.
Please.
Number one, I am a proud daughter of immigrants. My family came over in 1620. So as a representative of the first immigrants, we welcome immigration. So that's point one.
Hell yeah.
Point number two, the intellectual dishonesty of being against immigrants and somehow saying that's different from being a citizen. You know, our founders were not casual in their language. They understood what they were saying. And so for the supposed party of originalists to now say, oh, no, yeah, they just screwed up. The intellectual dishonesty. And plus, I will just say, ignoring more than half our population isn't meritocracy, it's malpractice. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Anyway, so let's talk about this NDA.
Yeah, let's start with the first thing that comes to my mind when we talk about NDA is well, as I was reading it, I was thinking about Signalgate and all of the actually really dangerous information that was put into a Signal chat that was totally confidential. And
you're gonna make Sue's head explode talking about that.
War plans.
Yeah.
The second thing I thought about, Sue, is the whole thing with the DOJ employees who were caught stealing Social Security data and actually giving it to companies, our data. So we're going to worry about these lifetime federal employees and giving them NDAs. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it may have already exploded. You may get nothing but gibberish out. But usually I make 3 points. My friends mock me for this. I'm going to make 6 today. We'll do one more one. Number one is this private sector analogy just simply doesn't hold. They protect trade secrets as competitive interest. The federal government secrets are largely the public's own business. They are. Policy deliberations and regulatory drafts and agency operations. And the analogy actually inverts the accountability of the relationship entirely. So just no. No.
Just no.
On the project, just if you want to.
Point one is just no.
Well, no, it's just a bad analogy.
Yes,
right? It sounds good. It's like, oh, we don't want lower standards in that. No. Government is in fact different, and the inverse is true. So that's one. Number two is we actually do already protect classified information. Now,
sometimes.
So this is interesting. So whether that is enforced or not, big question. Whether all the information that is marked classified is in fact classified is another thing. Tackle those two problems.
Yeah.
Right? Tackle those two problems, and you're just not going to have this issue. So there, to point number one, the government is the people's government. Protecting classified information is a special set, and there's good reason to protect it. And it has particular rules for being protected. That isn't to protect embarrassment or to protect disagreement. It's to protect sources and methods. So, yay, I'm anti-leak of classified information, anti-unauthorized disclosures, as long as the day is. But don't think that because it hasn't been effectively used, that it can't be effectively enforced. So you want to fix that? Fix it. Quit the manual processes, put RFID on every document, make it, I mean, there are so many things you can do. So I'm against overclassification, and I think you ought to prosecute leakers, but don't conflate that all information that the government has is the same as the classified information, which is to protect advantage, not to protect transparency. So that's two. So I get it. You want to say, there are leaks anyway. Stop it. Stop it. You have the methodology. If it's not enough for the modern era, then fix it. So that's point two. Any comments on that?
Did you have three through six?
I have 3 through 6. So yeah. Well, my comment is that, I mean, fix.
I mean, I think we have to be really clear on this, and I think you can be very organized in our response to this. And since there's going to be an open period, I think this is one that is so bad. So government process has to be transparent by design. Just democratic legitimacy depends on the public knowing how decisions are made, not just what the decisions are. And if you shield pre-decisional and deliberative material, you have actually undermined the principle of democracy, which, by the way, seems to be the point of this.
Yes.
In aggregate, but this is one that the government processes are designed to be transparent. It isn't a flaw of our system that people get to know how government works.
Right. Right.
Come on.
Well, I do think though, like to your point, to points 1 and 2, and I want to hear 3, 4, 5, and 6. But no, I'm excited
here today.
This is why we have you on, Sue. Don't sweat it. That's why we got you here.
Miles is going to be like, damn it. Sure, she's organized today.
No, like, Miles, you snooze, you lose, right? Like, that's just the deal. He's not here. We are here with you. But I do think that, fix the problems at hand. I mean, again, the Signal chat was insane, but fix that. They tried to just say, oh, well, no big deal. It wasn't even classified information, blah, blah, blah. But then also there's some really great points in the comment section. Our own president puts whatever the hell he wants on True Social all the time. Is he going to sign an NDA?
Just wait for point number 6.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it.
So number 4 is the real target here is the press, not security.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear about this. This is really about using the NDA law to drive journalism about government policy, and is a First Amendment problem dressed in HR clothing. I mean, we need to name it for what it is. This is trying to suppress the press because you have other mechanisms. 5, and you've already said this, so I don't need to go into it. The compliance mechanism is coercive. It just is. It is designed to disincent people from speaking. So I've been out now how many years? 6 years. I can't believe that, right? I love talking about national security. I am bound by my NDA. 6 years, I've talked a lot. I've not talked anything about classified information. And I think I have served the public well by talking about national security writ large in a way that helps the American people understand the issues that are affecting them. If you think all the things that are in play for elections, we need an informed populace. And so the idea that you're going to take people who understand a really important piece of who we are and say, you can't talk about how it's done. But I'm telling you, if you're inside federal agencies right now, you're scared to death. You don't know. You can be fired for writing a perfectly wonderful, articulate, truthful, responsible national intelligence estimate, and you can be fired.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't comport with a policy, even though the data suggests that it's right. So then you're going to say, I can't really define it. I'm not going to define a process, and I'm going to move the bars about what you can talk about for the rest of your life. No, because people will sign it. because people are being let go with no recourse, apparently. And just remember, if something happens to someone like me, I'm on the back nine. You can't really harm me. I could probably get a GoFundMe to help out. You're ruining people's lives.
Yeah.
When you take away and do we really want a federal government that doesn't have talented people working in it? I don't care what size it is. And then I think the last thing I just want to say, this hurts my head as a longtime federal employee, but what we're seeing right now is the government lies. And history proves it. And the civil service and a free press are really the only counterweight we have. And it isn't just silencing whistleblowers. It hands the people being investigated the power to decide, who can go after them. And it's happening right alongside the systematic erasure of public data. Yeah. Right? Just think about what's going on with economic data. Hey, have you guys seen the trillions of dollars that are coming into America? Mm-hmm. Have you seen the ledger of that? Have you seen the data that's coming? We got rid of people who are putting data out. I mean, just the idea that you are going to, maybe what you could do, if you really want this MDA, I want a concomitant executive order that says any federal official that can be fact-checked and proven to be lied would also be removed from office.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm just saying that this is a democratic issue. Governments lie. And let's talk about governments that don't have the accountability we have here of the press and the populace. Go back to 1988 in Chernobyl. Yeah, Russia, the Soviet Union was surely telling the truth about what was happening there, right? I hate to say it, but it is a counterweight. And again, this administration talks about these things as though they're design flaws, right? No, it's friction that was built in our system. And
they're not there to be your friends.
So, yeah,
they're there to hold you accountable.
So to me, if you strip out the noise around, isn't this the right standard? Shouldn't we protect? We don't want bad things to happen to people. This is fundamentally antithetical to a democratic nation. But other than that, it's good to me.
Big question. What do you think we should do? I think there's a lot of, this is reminiscent of a lot of other things he's doing, where he's posturing he has a certain power that he doesn't. It's really a means of intimidation and coercion. And so there's certain things that across like other areas that we see him do this in, there's kind of a playbook, right? You've got to educate the people targeted. Yep. When he talked about armies being at polling locations, a lot of folks stood up and said, you got to tell voters they have a right to be there, and you got to get people to be poll watchers to make sure those armies, if they ever do decide to show up, are being recorded and can be held accountable. Yeah. And so there's that aspect of it. There's the personal support. There's a group stood up called Work for America. I don't know if you heard about this group, but when federal employees started being let go, they tried to create a safe way for those federal employees to be employed then by Maryland, by Virginia, by the states around them, and state governments elsewhere. Because to your point, there's so many talented people that work in our federal system. But I want to kind of open up the floor and go blue sky with you. What do you think we should be doing at this point? If you could wave a wand and build one thing or make sure one thing's getting funded, what do you think we should be doing?
Wow. I'm going to start with the simplest thing while I stall and think of the big magic wand things. The simplest thing.
Okay, right on. That's all right.
Everyone owns some space, right? So I own a podcast. I talk about this shit on my podcast. For the 10,000 people that listen to that, I try and hear it. Every individual needs to talk about it with their space. Every elected official needs to take this one on. And what's kind of cool about this one is it isn't really associated with any policy. This is core fundamental, and it doesn't have anything to latch onto in terms of a human element, demonizing immigrants. It can't do that. It doesn't have a religious piece. So to me, we need to activate the other accountable branch of the government and get them to really stand up and do something about this. I too worry that election isn't going to be enough to fix all the things we have. I think probably the next election isn't going to be won by a politician. If it's going to change things, it's someone who can put out a vision for America and say how to get there. But short of that, we've got to keep putting pressure on the Congress. I would love if the Billionaire Boys Club would actually realize that all the money they've made is because we're a nation of laws and because we're democratic and the people do with things. And to stand up for something like this, to just say that it is anti all the things that have allowed them to build companies that have made gazillions of dollars. To me, this one feels really simple. And just everyone who owns a space, and you have those factions. I don't think this is a letter to the Washington Post signed by all former federal officers. I just don't think that's going to do it. But I think there are entities that rely on who we are as a nation, that rely on good information and information of quality. And this effort to create one messaging is just counter. And it's not just counter to some esoteric ideal of democracy that I suppose some people feels as far away as climate. But this is fundamental to everything you do. Information quality, writ large, is the transportation for every human success. And this is a really good hill to stand on. So I would just hit all of those, and I would hit it hard to say, this is not tacked onto any of those others that have some real policy question behind them. You know, how many people can our system support? What are our standards for doing? This one feels like a free-floating ion that we can capture and get everyone to say that it is deleterious to everyone's life were this to happen.
You hear that, billionaire boys?
Yeah, you hear that?
Boys out there.
Sorry.
You hear that? Go ask how's Jack Ma doing over in China? What's he up to these days? Oh, he's not doing as many keynotes. Last I saw, we hadn't heard from him in a few years. How about the Russians when Putin took over? Those billionaires that tried to stand up to him, where are they now?
Right.
They're 6 feet underground. This doesn't work out for you guys.
It just doesn't. And for all the noise up at the political level, globally, with people who have to kowtow to somebody in order to receive some favor, there is a real layer of work that goes on underneath for the people that recognize that this world has to work. And this just, it seems esoteric, and I can see a whole bunch of people saying, yeah, no. Of all the things that we're talking about, this one is, in my estimation, the least controversial and the most deleterious if we don't do something about it. So everyone needs to stand up. I would love it if we could get some, I wish we had the more channel you could put out there, and just hi Miles.
Yeah, Miles, you
Stu, do you want to start a more channel with me? We could just do it. I can quit this Defiance thing and we could go do a more thing.
We can or Schoolhouse Rock, because that has music. But
I was reading Rainbow.
No, I'm just saying that this one just feels so. I'm simultaneously worried that it could just scoot by because of the stupid, it's just like private sector, right?
Yeah, totally.
Right.
But I think it's opportunistic because it doesn't have any good grounding in anything that is a real policy or difficulty issue in America, except the fact that we just cannot be left with state media with one voice. Just can't.
As a journalist, I love what you're saying, Sue. I mean, it's absolutely true. And the Fourth Estate is one of the most important branches here to ensure we have accountability. And that goes for both parties, no matter who's in power, all parties, I should say, no matter who's in power, right? We want accountability.
Maybe we tap into that. See, I told you I was saying
there we
that
go. You're getting the engines revved up.
maybe we tap into the comedy network. They were pretty effective
They really were.
On some level, maybe we make this, first you went after the comics, then you went after something else. I mean, maybe that's an already kind of established ecosystem that could take this one on and kind of just raise it up to the level of ire that one, look at me, ire, that seems so little compared to where I feel. The level of ire that we got over that. So that's my big idea, is maybe that network is something that we can use.
Well, Sue, I want to say something about these.
Day. Go ahead, Miles. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, these NDAs, there's an illusion here that I want people to understand. There's an illusion that everything that happens inside of government is classified, and anyone who shares something that happens inside of government is breaking the law, and therefore they all should sign NDAs because it's classified. Let me just remind everyone, Democrat, Republican, or independent, what happens inside the government, you own. You own it. You are paying for it, which is why for 250 years, we have talked about increasing transparency inside of government so you can understand how your money is being spent. There's a separate world of very sensitive things that happen that are classified. And guess what? All of those people are under legal obligation to protect that information. They go to prison if they don't, unless they're the president of the United States, in which case they can steal nuclear secrets and international secrets and apparently not go to prison. But other than that, the system works pretty goddamn well. It does. 99.9% of people I worked with in the national security community did not go to prison for revealing secrets because they didn't reveal secrets. But the other things that happen inside your government, you want government employees, especially if they see bad shit, to not be scared to sound the alarm. You want them to be able to come forward, say a bad thing's happening. Sometimes that's to an inspector general. Sometimes that's to the FBI. Sometimes that's to Congress. Sometimes it's to Maritza, because there's not always a clear pathway that here's the slam dunk way you're going to stop the corruption. It changes based on what you're seeing. This is nothing but an effort to scare the shit out of federal employees. That is all this is about. And if you want a data point for how bad it's already gotten, we got a survey the other week that came out that showed when this administration started, 75% of government employees said they felt comfortable sounding the alarm if they saw something illegal happening. Do you want to know what that number is now? 25%.
I would say 17.
Only 1 in 4 government employees feels like they can sound the alarm. That's horseshit. And I'm sorry for my language here, but this is insane. They're trying to wrap duct tape around the heads of federal employees. Why do you think that is? Because these guys are breaking the effing law every single day. This is not going to stand. I can guarantee you that even though this administration is trying to put these NDAs in place, it's going to get sued by our allies until they're just smothered in lawsuits that they quietly give this thing up. But in the meantime, it's worth us yelling in their faces because this is disgusting. I'm not paying these people to keep my taxpayer dollars and how they're spent secret. I'm not paying them for that. I'm paying them to do their goddamn jobs and to tell me if something's wrong. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, but this one pisses me off.
I love the reinforcement, Miles. You did it more briefly than I did, but I think we made the same point. Totally agree. You missed points.
You're a diplomat. This is why, Sue, they didn't send me to go sit with the foreign leaders to do the negotiations. I'd sit behind the Sue Gordons because they were worried what I would say.
I think I was Sue Gordon's semi-unhinged, right? Come on, back me up, guys.
You chose your battle.
Yeah, you were bringing the fire. She had a 6-point doctrine that you might have missed earlier, Miles.
Yeah, the 6-point plan here, Miles. But I
did it on purpose because Sue's plans are always better than my plans, so I just can't stand to hear them.
But I like your fire.
My ego can't.
You made me think about this thing that I've heard for so many years from politicians in my state, which is we need a smaller government. We need less government. We need smaller government. We don't need, and so now we're going to make the employees sign NDAs. That just doesn't quite line up. But Sue, we do have some viewer questions for you. So Casey writes, what is the expiration date of not being able to talk about something according to your NDA? Does it expire?
I'm fine. I'm not on classified information the rest of my life.
Rest of your life. Okay.
Man,
unless
alien questions for you.
Unless the information becomes is declassified. But again, I'm in charge of that. Like come after me if I break it. But as Miles said, it is a really effective mechanism. It's a really effective mechanism.
But you guys, good news. If you want to ask Sue any questions about the Amelia Earhart files, they've been released, so we can talk all about those Amelia Earhart files.
Goodness, when we were all hankering for the Epstein files, the administration said, we will do what the American people want and give them the Amelia Earhart files that say precisely nothing.
That's what we've been clamoring for.
Actually really enjoyed 7-year-old Maritza was like, yes, Amelia Earhart. Okay, so there's Henning asks, with the DOJ apparently erasing files about J6 cases on the website, are there safeguards, backups to prevent complete loss of data across the government? Because this came up today. Senator Tester and I were talking to Glenn Kirshner that, you know, this information still exists. It's just not on the websites. But how do we know that? How do we ensure that they're not just getting rid of it altogether?
Well, it is hard to remove all traces of all data, in part because of the way our systems are designed, not necessarily designed for great use, just with the way they were built. And so they tend to be weirdly resilient in a disorganized way. But the problem is it's also had to get at, and also if you're intending to get rid of it, you can do a lot of things to make it hard. The intention, the idea of getting rid of government data, again, is antithetical to what we require as a nation to be able to understand history and accountability. But it will be hard to get rid of everything. And I wanted to say that these people have not proven to be the brightest bulbs. And so coming up with a way to do it, you know, I'm hopeful that the data will be there. My problem with it is that we have data problems in general. You have data use problems in general. And so ease of recovery will be hard even if the data exists. And again, I have so many problems with going backwards. Like I think we have so many things that we need to fix that if the next administration comes in and it decides that what it most needs to do is to go find and recreate all the data that has been gotten rid of, I worry about what we're going to spend our time on. So it will be much harder, but it actually is hard to get rid of all instances of all data, as we see by everyone's Twitters from, and tweets from 15 years ago that you can suddenly find. So there is some resilience in the way our systems are built.
Shout out to the Wayback Machine, run by the Internet Archive, which lets you go back and check out any site at any certain time.
Yes.
If you're the guys shredding files, you're usually the bad guys. It's not a whole lot of good guys shredding files. Not a good sign.
Yeah, so many things are wrong about this. Keep going, Marissa.
Last question from our viewers here. Are there organized groups of former U.S. intelligence employees? This is from Igor, by the way. Igor. Are there organized groups of former U.S. intelligence employees yet who might work together on investigative work towards accountability for once we take the government back to get working while the official agencies are still under authoritarian control? Glenn Kirshner was talking about this morning with me, but go ahead, Sue.
I think former federal employees will always answer their nation's call. I do. I think there are so many women and men that are ready to leap back into service of this nation when the call comes. I think that there are organizations, numbers of them, of formers who are trying to do various aspects of the job. I think one of the things that we have most done to harm the country is we have made it so that we get rid of half of our federal workforce with every new administration. We've just got to stop that silliness that most people who work in the civil service, they may have a political opinion that they exert in the voting booth, but they do their job. So I think it will be easy to find people who can rally to support their nation's call, whether inside or outside the government. It's just, there has to be the moment that it's going to have effect. And I think what you all are doing with Defiance.org is one of the things that helps people coalesce around specific actions. I think this would be an easy call.
It's actually kind of a layup, Miles, for what we got going tomorrow.
No, it is.
I've
been struggling not to say it, but I'll tease it. Tomorrow, for folks who are watching, every week on Wednesdays, we do this weekly mission brief. It's the core of what we do, which is we take our club resources, both the human capital of the thousands of people in Defiance.org and the actual membership fees, and we put them towards fighting back against Trump's corruption. This is one we are addressing head on tomorrow. And we are going to be supporting efforts to make sure that people who witness that wrongdoing aren't scared into silence by an NDA, aren't intimidated by the administration to shut up and not report it to federal authorities or Congress or the press. We're going to push back against this very loudly with our partners. So tune in tomorrow to that, because we're not going to let stuff like this stand. And, believe me, it's going to take a few years, but we're going to fight and fight and fight and reverse this so that your public servants are accountable to you and not sent to carry out illegal orders for a wannabe despot. It's not why we hired those folks. It's not why we hired them in government. And we're not going to let a structure like that endure.
That was a proper tease, Miles. That wasn't too much info. It wasn't too little. It was well done.
Xander was worried.
It's why Wednesdays are my favorite watch.
There we go.
Call me separately. The more you know. I'm in.
So I'm sorry that I missed the earlier part. I'll watch it in the replay, but we are grateful for you as always, my friend. Sue Gordon is a type of patriot that is in short supply these days. Dare I say, an endangered species type of patriot. But we're going to proliferate, Sue, like you said. When this is all over, those patriots are going to be back. They're going to be stepping up. And in the meantime, we just got to make sure people are unafraid to do it. And you know what? I will just say this. I got a lot of confidence in the American people now.
I do too. I talk all the time.
Totally. Y'all who are watching and other folks, a lot of you may have said that you were scared a few months ago or a year ago. You're the ones fighting back now. The people that are still scared are the absolutely spineless little elitists out there, especially CEOs. And we wrote about this morning on Defiance News about how CEOs are saying, even though their companies are getting kicked in the shorts by Trump's tariffs and taxes and his war, they're still scared to speak out against him because they're worried about getting sued. Give me a fucking break. Step up, have a little courage, fight. Even if you're not fighting for us, fight for your damn shareholders. Like, do your job, you pussies, or quit. Just quit. Like, that's what I have to say about that. Anyway, a little bit of a punchy mood today, but I'm sick of it. I'm done with the cowardice. They can come sue me. They can come sue all of us. They can come bring these cases. We're not intimidated. We are not intimidated by you feckless thugs, and we're going to chase you out of office. In the meantime, please make sure you're following Sue Gordon because she's a patriot that cuts through the noise. Make sure you're following Maritza because she and John Tester, they will not be intimidated. John Tester will drive that tractor to the nation's capital if he's got to. And Xander sits under that neon, so he's prepared to be defiant every week.
You know where to find me.
Please do, if you're not already a member, sign up at Defiance.org or just sign up for free and watch what we're doing and decide if you want to row with us. We're going to fight until this thing's over. Anyway, I think that's our show for the day. But let me just say,
wait, no, we didn't do.
Folks,
we didn't do.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Joining the Defiance yet.
I was really so defiant.
We didn't. Sorry. Let's do who's joining the Defiance. Right. I was on a roll.
But
Miles is coming in late to the program like the freaking Kool-Aid man, just bursting through the wall.
I appreciated the enthusiasm and the gusto, Miles. I would like to know what you ate before this. I would maybe like to try some of that.
I had one of those poppy, healthy sodas. So that's what I had. Sue, do you want to stay with us for who's joining the Defiance? Do you want a piece of good news?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Come join the ride.
Okay. So on Who's Joining the Defiance, we're going to go to Alabama, where Trump's aggressive campaign to gerrymander the shit out of the midterms has met a critical snag, and those who stood in the way might surprise you. Let's listen to this piece from NBC News.
Is today, as you said, this three-judge panel in the latest turn in this case said that Alabama Republicans cannot use the map they want to use because it intentionally discriminates on the basis of race. A big moment for rule of law here, and a reminder to everybody, it is still illegal to intentionally discriminate on the basis of race in our elections. And federal courts, including this one with 2 Trump appointees on it, said that that map in 2023 did just that. And even though the Supreme Court a few weeks ago rolled back protections for minority voters under the Voting Rights Act, this court said the Constitution still stands, which is, of course, separate from the law. And they said this map violates the Constitution. They say it was a calculated, purposeful decision by Alabama Republicans to dilute the influence of black voters. And therefore, they, again today, said this map that the Republicans have been pushing cannot be used in November.
Okay, so
bottom line is today, as you said,
ABC News, not NBC News. But get this, guys. Alabama is not the only state in the South with news like that today. They're not the only state turning down Trump's newly proposed congressional maps. Abruptly, South Carolina's Senate adjourned today without taking up debate on a map that would overturn the state's lone majority black district there. So with early voting already underway in South Carolina, by refusing to bring forward discussion of the map, they've all but silenced this motion. So today, we welcome to the Defiance the great states of Alabama and South Carolina.
Gang, do you know when you're being too racist? It's when Alabama and South Carolina tell you to chill out. That's when you know you might be being too racist.
Sue, can I ask you about this one? John Thune said a couple of days ago, when Republicans went home for Memorial Day recess without passing Trump's budget, that, yeah, the politics of what's been happening might be influencing the decision-making of those Republican members of Congress not to do what Trump wants. And by politics, he meant the fact that Trump was going after sitting Republican members of Congress, trying to get them thrown out of Congress. And so they're not super excited to do his bidding. They're a little bit frustrated that he keeps corrupt things. They're going to get the, big losses in their races. I imagine that you assess this one the same way, that maybe Trump has overplayed his hand a little bit, and that these folks are saying, man, we can't go along with you anymore.
He is so over his skis, and he's been getting there for a while. I think what's super interesting is the Iran war, which you would think is not necessarily tied to it, but it's another example of the massive pushback when there was I'm about to come to an agreement, and people saw the agreement, and then you just have everyone pushing back against it. I think I don't want to be so optimistic to say we've reached the tipping point, but I think the more things like this happen, more people are going to say, even if it costs me a seat, I'm going to do it. They just can't. I mean, we've been waiting for just a little bit of courage out of Congress, and I think you're starting to see it. And I think there's so much energy that is vibrating, ready to be thrown behind something that is going to make a difference, that actually I'm hopeful. Not ridiculously so, but he doesn't have the support for any of the things in terms of foundation that he's trying to do. And as they get exposed as not being either constitutional or not being effective or not worth the money that's being spent, I think you're now starting to see real difference. I still believe that until we put forward a vision of what we're for as a nation, that addresses some of the things that allowed the symptom that is Trump to come into office, that it will be hard to capture all of it. But I think we're on the way.
That's what we had. Former Secretary Pete Buttigieg on our show. He was in Montana last week, and he talked about this. He's traveling the country, talking to people, trying to understand what they're up against and hearing real stories. And that's what he said. We have this opportunity now to go back and build this the way we want it to be built, and not just go back to the way it was, but actually like to build this the right way. And it's a hopeful thing.
Yeah, I think there's a moment. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I can, for the first time in a couple of years, I can see it. And to your point, Maritza, I think it's so true. Our system was breaking, if not broken, before. That's what the American people were telling us. We just were kind of maintaining the status quo, not addressing the things that needed to. So it allowed what this administration came in with to happen. This administration has broken it more. So I don't think we should be thinking about trying to recapture some golden days. This is going to require new. And that's why I say we've got to start coalescing around what we're for, what that looks like, and how it happens. And it can't just be big esoteric things like democracy. It has to be, we must take on information quality. We must take on education. We must take on healthcare, because all of those things fundamentally affect our most valuable supply chain issue, which is talent, and then go after that. But if we don't put that forward, I think we won't do the best job that we could of capturing all the energy that is desperate to coalesce around something. They just don't see the opportunity quite yet, but this is a moment. See, Miles, I can be optimistic still.
I like it. I like it. We got this. We got this. We're going to fight this thing. And look, I know they had some wins last week, but I agree with you, Sue. The pushback is showing that there's a lot more ants under the log, is another way to put it, right? We're seeing some of the ants on top of the log, the South Carolinas and others, but that means there's just a whole hell of a lot of them under there. And you're just starting to see some of that in the poll numbers. Like, if you need any other evidence of it, it's the fact that, Trump came into office at about 50% approval, then he went down to about 40%, and he hovered there. And people are like, how's he at 40%? This guy sucks. He's a lunatic. He's breaking laws left and right. That's because the MAGA coalition was not breaking from him. And the fact that he's now down in the low 30s, those numbers are coming from his own people. It's not like a bunch of Democrats and independents were sitting on the sidelines. So if you need any indicator, huge swaths of his movement are abandoning him. But hell, I see it just driving down the road. Yeah. People are taking down his signs. Yep. People aren't wearing his shirts. They're taking off the dumbass red hats. Like, they don't want to wear it anymore. This guy is an embarrassment, and that's going to harm him in the midterms. He'll get his butt kicked in the midterms, and it's going to allow us all to chase him out of office. Even if, Sue, that means we got to chase him down into a bunker. I don't mean that literally. I mean it figuratively, but he may literally think he needs to go down into the Presidential Emergency Operations Center to escape accountability, but it's not going to work. It's like our friend John Kelly said, Sue, a couple of years ago. If they have to put him in a straitjacket and haul him out, that may be what they have to do. So
I preferred ending, really.
Yeah,
I do think too.
That photograph would be an all-time, photograph. That's
he likes perp walks.
Cover photo. Yeah.
Not to extend this too long, but I'm watching Texas tonight, you guys, because you have to remember there are people within MAGA who have really been champions for this president, and all of a sudden he's going against people they've served with. People are not Republicans in the Senate are not happy about him not endorsing John Cornyn. And so if Ken Paxton wins tonight, I think it's only going to cause more divide, and we're going to see more uprisings. So
I'm gonna say it here. If Paxton wins tonight, Tallarico will take the seat.
Oh,
I like that prediction. I can't back it up with data, but I like that a lot. I like where you're going, Sue.
No, I mean, he's reprehensible.
100%.
Did you see what Tillis said about him?
No.
What?
Tom Tillis was on CNN this weekend.
Oh, I did. I saw it. It was so direct.
He said something like, if you just say Ken Paxton has a moral or an ethics deficit, that's like saying Jeffrey Dahmer had an eating disorder.
Oh my God, that's so good. Dang, getting spun.
Yeah,
Man, we need more of these Republican senators to act like they're retiring. So, you know, that's the thing that still gets me is they find a lot of courage when they get defeated in their primaries or they announce that they're retiring. I want to see that same courage while they're running for re-election. I don't know. Maybe we'll see a few more of those because a few more of them may realize it's the only way they're going to get reelected is they have to separate themselves from the madness. Sorry, you had an or, Xander.
Or they could all retire and then they could all be brave for this last little sprint. Right. Maybe we could get a whole new swath of people in. I like that plan too. If you're a Republican senator, you're having a hard time being brave, please retire and then find your courage and we'll find someone else for your seat.
I think
we got a plan. Okay. Now I think I can do our sign off. And sorry that I was trigger happy earlier. I didn't want to leave you all. But I thought we were at the end of the program. Let me just say again, Sue Gordon is incredible. A patriot of the highest order. I'm going to repeat that as well. Please make sure you are following Sue Gordon. Unfortunately, because of her national security NDA, you're not going to get to know what Sue Gordon has done to protect you. But believe me, if you can hear my voice right now, Sue Gordon has done something in her career to protect you. I don't mean that one figuratively either. I really mean that one. She's protected you and your country and our way of life, and you owe her thanks. And especially because she doesn't even get to tell you the reasons that she protected your life and your way of life. Marit's the same thing, but in a different way from the journalism profession. And, you know, Xander is working to put you in his debt every single day by defending this country.
It sounded like Sue was Batman for a second.
I mean,
you don't know.
I cannot confirm or deny that Sue might be.
Sue might be Batman.
Have you ever seen them in the same room, Xander?
That's a good point. Never.
Tune in tomorrow for the weekly mission brief to find out whether we unmask the incredible, the honorable Sue Gordon as Batman. Until then, friends, thank you to our guest. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to Defiance.org members. And please, as always, stay loud, stay brave, and stay together. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.